gentlemen, for
Finally, another podcast about
Godzilla!
and all his giant monster friends.
This could be the end of civilization.
Yeah, probably. So join your hosts, Chris Chikini and Chris Casares.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You're listening to the podcast. From Odo Island. Welcome to the podcast from Odo Island. I am Smooth Chris, and with me as always is the always effervescent Slick Chris.
Is one of us Pacific Chris and the other Atlantic Chris for the purposes of this episode?
Have you ever seen Atlantic Rim?
I did.
Oh my god!
Oh boy!
I saw the Netflix or whatever streaming service it was on, the little poster thing for it, and I was like, no.
I think I just caught it.
Oh wait,
on
no!
TV one day.
I think I did accidentally watch it because it was on the riff tracks. I think it was on the Gauntlet.
Oh, okay. I've seen it in some.
But
weird
I fell
manner.
asleep watching it, so it doesn't count.
Yeah. And, I don't think that. I think that movie had a whole different name, and I think they just called it Atlantic Rim because Pacific Rim, I think, had just come out at the time. And what's that studio's name that bangs those out?
Oh, I have no idea.
Like the Sharknado shit and all that.
Yeah.
They just did one like Monster Island or something too that I saw was like on Amazon Prime, and I was like, I'm not. What is this shit? I'm not getting down with this shit.
They also do that Rico movie.
Oh, really?
I'm just asking. I have no idea.
Oh, I don't know. I don't know either.
Well, yeah, you could be Mid-Atlantic Chris, and I'll be Mid-Pacific Chris.
Oh, there we go. That's a great segue because we'll just nutshell it quick because we had some Thanksgiving OIWF action and nothing really changed. Landscape stayed the same.
Landscape stayed the same. There is a steel cage match that the results already. It was a big title defense for Kamada-kun against Godzilla Earth. However, the events that unfolded in the match are shocking and will be documented on our Twitter account at Odo Island Pod. Those should be up already, but if not, coming soon. I just have to get around to doing it. I just showed Chris the old steel cage that I had, so it'll happen.
Yeah. That the Trendmasters of the universe just put another win in the win column. They are just truly a force to be reckoned with here in the OIWF.
Yeah, can't stop them. I mean, we tried. We tried to put them in a no DQ match to put them in their place, and they just won anyway. So
I do enjoy that. As it's. I think we always say the OIWF is just a nice little diversion for us to have something to kind of fill the downtime with on Twitter. And but I don't know. It's actually a lot of fun in my head booking a figure federation with kaiju toys.
I get to have a lot of fun doing this, so
it's just I just like how the worse we make the Trendmasters of the universe, the more popular they become. It's really quite comical to me.
I enjoy that, and I also enjoy just making the Playmates Shin Godzilla just get destroyed and have them talk like this. I thought that was really good.
So I don't know what we'll do for I feel like because we have one episode left in 2020, which we will probably discuss more later. Or do we technically have two more?
Yeah, I was going to say we have two more.
Well, we have this one.
Yes.
And then the next one will be on the 21st.
Yeah.
And then after that, it's January 4th.
Which is Wrestle Kingdom.
but yeah, I was thinking our world title should be on the line around with Kong Christmas. So there might be a little bit of we might have to determine a number one contender during the week, and then have Titanosaurus defend his newly won OIWF world title at Kong Christmas.
Yeah, we'll do a number one contenders match, and then we'll do the title match.
Yeah, big way to end the year. Clearly, we didn't really plan that far ahead.
No, this is literally the first conversation we've had about it. So.
But you'll see the end result of that conversation on Twitter. So, so great. But I think some news just broke that will again be about 4 or 5 days old by the time this episode airs. But as we were just saying offline, our reactions will be fresh.
Yes, that's what the people want, is our hot takes.
That's right.
So, yeah, let them have it, Haas.
So, Warner Brothers Warner Brothers announced that their entire 2021 slate will be coming to HBO Max, same day as the theatrical release, and will be available on HBO Max for 30 days. And that obviously includes Godzilla vs. Kong. I was trying to think of what other shitty movies. Oh, they have a Mortal Kombat movie.
They have a Mortal Kombat movie. They have a Dune movie that looks pretty appealing to me. I drink every time they say spice. Which I don't know if we can cover Dune, because there is a giant worm called Shai Hulud in Dune.
Close enough.
I don't know if you've ever seen it. It's the original is directed by David Lynch, and it stars Kyle MacLachlan and Patrick Stewart's in it. It's got a pretty
I
big
saw
cast.
it a long time ago. Long time ago.
I
Isn't
watched
there one before that too? Oh no, that one didn't get made, right?
Yeah,
there's supposed to be one before the David Lynch one.
I watched it pretty recently, and they say spice a lot.
But yeah, I didn't even know there was like a Mortal Kombat movie coming out. I saw that. I was like, oh, okay.
Obviously, I don't know if people know this about me, but I really like Mortal Kombat 2. That's my game.
The movie, not the movie. Not the game.
I was hoping you'd say that. Yeah, not the movie. The first Mortal Kombat movie is awesome. The second movie is just terrible. It's watchable because it's so terrible. At one point, Baraka gets pushed into a fire pit, and they used I think it was either Rain or Ermac being pushed into a fire pit as like a quick cut instead, because they didn't shoot Baraka. So it's a completely different person getting pushed into a pit.
Oh boy.
Yeah. It's bad.
I just remember Johnny Cage dying like 5 minutes into the second one. I thought that was fantastic.
Oh, it's funny to watch, but he's the best character in the movie, the first one.
Yeah.
He's like one of the only people who actually has their move done correctly. He just does the split and just punches Goro right in the testicular fortitude. Yeah,
and then he does a little autograph picture after.
Oh yeah, he does the friendship to Scorpion.
Yeah. But yes, that will. Well, I'm sure that will be swell. But yes, your thoughts, Smooth, on Godzilla vs. Kong being available in your home at the day of it gets released in May, as of now.
I like it. I never go to the movies often. I probably go 2 to 3 times a year on average. So, like, going to the movies is sort of like an event to me. And I have a particular ritual for it. The Sunday morning after the movie's released, I go because nobody else is there, and I have pretty much the entire theater to myself, and I can just sit there and watch it in peace. So that's usually how I go see movies. I think the last movie I watched not like that was King of the Monsters with the big group we went with.
Oh yeah.
But like, other than that,
after one of my best friends' wedding rehearsal dinners, I hustled a bunch of so. It was a good significant chunk of that group that went to the movies were like in the wedding party, so we all had to go to the rehearsal dinner, and so I got tickets for I think it was like an 11 o'clock showing, and I just remember going like, all right, this rehearsal dinner done, we all got to hustle out of here and get to the theater.
I was at a bar waiting for you guys, so I just sat down at a bar and had a few drinks, and then I went to see the movie, which also had a bar at the movie theater. I was like, oh no. so I was a few weeks after we saw that, I was like, you want to go see King of the Monsters again? I kind of forget it.
Yeah, I mean, like you, I also have a movie ritual, and that usually includes putting Nips in a Coke bottle and taking him into the movies. So that's usually my ritual. But Like you, I also don't go to the movies a lot, but I also don't consider it an event. I kind of fucking hate going to the movies, so... But I am happy that I can watch, like, if I was seeing Godzilla vs. Kong in IMAX, yes, that would be really cool, but if I'm not seeing a movie in IMAX, like, I don't really give too much of a shit. Like, I would just prefer to be comfortable in my own home to watching it, and, you know, I don't know. People have been, like, complaining that, like, oh, it's, like, $30 to, like, get these, like, on-demand movies, like, but I'm just like, if you go to, like, the movies, right? Like, the tickets, what? Like, if you go at night, it's like $13, $14 at least. And then, like, if you buy anything there, anything, unless you're like me and, like, you save a little bit of money because you snuck your loaded Coke bottle in. But if you were, like, buying stuff in there, you easily have just spent over $30. So,
oh, absolutely.
Like, so whatever, you get a movie at home and, like, you split it with, like, your friends, and it's like, next thing you know, everyone's just paying like $5 or $10.
Well, I'm probably just gonna have to pay you that money and then go home and buy it myself to watch it.
Listen, I'll even charge you for popcorn here. It'll be great. And I'll even make sure it's stale and crappy.
I had a conversation with one of my friends about going to movie theaters recently, and I don't know about you, but whenever I go to the movie theater around us, it's always very comfortable. The chairs are very nice, but it always has this weird smell to it. And I always think of Milhouse crawling out of the mattresses, going, "It smells funny in there," and then I'm going, "No, it doesn't."
Yeah, and you know what? There's probably, like, annoying people there. Like, you know, they're probably, like, annoying teenagers that, just like when we would go to, like, the movies, like, we would probably be, like, annoying teenagers in certain movies and stuff like that. And
I was hilarious.
I for one welcome this new trend of me being able to see a movie at home and not have to go to the theaters. That's I welcome it. I'm ready for it.
Yeah, you know, we'll see how it works. I hope it makes a good chunk of money. That's obviously my biggest concern is, like, I want these movies to continue in some form. I hope the Toho movies get their chance, and then, you know, we can still have the Monsterverse here. Don't know if that's going to be possible, though, with this.
Yeah, it's going to see what sort of, like, more long-term impact that this is going to have on... I mean, you know, nobody's going to be... I can't imagine any studio, like, saying they're going to shell out, like, all the money they've been shelling out for, like, blockbusters in the past, like, between, you know, you have these, like, movies that have budgets of, like, upwards of, like, $500 million plus a marketing budget on top of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, if no one's going to be, you know, we don't know, like, what long-term impact, like, you know,
and that's the other thing about
have
this.
Coming out of this,
was
so.
Netflix offered $200 million for Godzilla vs. Kong, which isn't a small amount of money, but compared to what these movies have been making, it's about half. You know, a little bit, maybe a little bit more than half. So obviously they were looking to get, like, a good deal on this, and it would draw people, because I feel like the Godzilla stuff is drawing people over to Netflix.
Yeah,
especially with, like, the anime, because they get a lot of a buzz, and people who don't, like, really watch Godzilla stuff, do see it. Like, I remember I was working with people, and they're like, "Did you watch those Godzilla anime movies?" And I was like, "Yep." And then they're like, "Well, I thought they were pretty good." And then I'm just like,
Yeah, I mean, so that was like interesting. Like, at first I was like, Netflix offered them like $200 million for it. I was like, you know, you're kind of halfway there. It's like your filming budget at that point.
Yeah.
And but then, like, when I saw it today, that it was like every single movie that was in the 2021 slate is landing on HBO Max, and I was like, okay, that must be, like, I don't know. I don't know if, like, at the time we were recording this, if, like, the money behind that deal is public yet, but, like, that must have been, like, an insane amount of money that was been kicked around to get, like, the entire Warner Brothers 2021 slate. So,
well, HBO is, like, a property of like WB and Time Warner, isn't it?
Yeah, so I don't know how, like, these...
So I think it's
like,
all in-house, so I don't know if there's any cash really being exchanged. I think the studios are just putting it to one of their subsidiaries to recoup money.
See, that's like what I don't know is like when it's like when all the reporting was like that, like they rejected the Netflix deal. It said they were preparing a counter for HBO Max, and like so I guess I was like, okay, maybe there's like some like weird business setup that's, I don't know, I have no idea. But
yeah, me neither.
I will not pretend to be some sort of
I'm all speculation here. I'm no source of concrete information. I'm just BSing over here.
So I don't know. I'm happy for that, and then maybe I will drink a whole bunch of White Claws one night and watch that Mortal Kombat movie and hope for the best. See how that goes.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna have to watch that one. that dude and Godzilla are probably the three movies. Like, usually there's not a lot of movies that I want to see, and I'm usually against remakes. But the Dune trailer looked really good. A lot of stuff you could see. Like, I think someone paired it next to the original David Lynch Dune movie, so you could see the scenes happening in both of them at the same time that the trailer was cut from. And I was like, oh, this looks pretty good. I'm pretty hopeful for that one. I have not seen anything on Mortal Kombat, like no pictures, no trailer or anything, so I don't know how it looks or anything. But
God, I hope it literally just picks up where the second one left off, which I don't remember how it ended, but that's what I hope it is. But
do you remember in the mid 2000s when we were in college, they released this it wasn't like an actual movie, it was like a teaser trailer for like a concept of a Mortal Kombat movie.
Was it the one with Brock and Johnny Cage, I think?
It was Jax was the detective, and he was interviewing Scorpion, and Baraka.
Oh, yes.
Had human remains in his refrigerator that he was eating.
Yeah.
I was like, this looks dark as fuck and could be awesome. And then it just never materialized. I was kind of disappointed that nothing happened with that.
Yeah, just like the Gamera trailer that we got last year that never turned into anything.
Exactly. That looked cool, and then they never did anything with it.
But, well, that's exciting. I'm just happy Godzilla vs. Kong looks like it's going to finally, now it actually feels like it will truly come out.
Yeah, they got a new SmackDown vs. Raw logo for it, too.
Oh, I saw that today, too, and I was like, well, fantastic. Still no trailer, no nothing, but,
New logo. Hey, we got a banner a few weeks ago. We got a new logo today. Pretty soon. They're like, oh, you want a Godzilla vs. Kong trailer? And they just have a trailer with a decal of Godzilla vs. Kong painted on it.
Yeah, that would be. They have no monster scenes whatsoever. It's all just clips of the human cast.
Yeah, it's just Millie Bobby Brown and her dad,
and the guy from True Blood who's in the movie.
I've never seen True Blood.
Well, great show for about 2 seasons.
Is it 6 seasons?
Yes. So there was a lot of bad. Was it 6? It was 5 or 6, but yeah. It was. But it was really good for 2. But whatever, we can do our own. If we start a Patreon, we can do a separate True Blood podcast every week. But
okay.
Yeah. I think we've rambled on enough here. I think it's time to get to the main course, don't you?
Sure. Why not? So this week we had Pacific Rim as our movie, and this came out in 2013. You usually give the history on this thing, but do you mind if I talk about Guillermo del Toro, the director of this movie, for a minute?
It's all you. Go for it.
Yeah. So he's had his hands in a lot of pies over the years. He did Mimic in the 90s, which is a pretty decent horror movie. He did Blade 2. I don't know if you ever saw that, but
oh yes.
It's I don't know how to describe it. It's awesome. I love Blade 2. But it's very goofy, and it has a very sort of unrealistic undertone to it that Blade does a suplex during the final fight.
Yeah, it's awesome.
And then Cormac, who's the head, the main bad guy, who's actually kind of sympathetic and almost a good guy. He does a flying elbow drop during that fight from the ceiling. So it's very wrestling centric. A lot of twists and turns. There's betrayals in it. Good stuff. I really like Blade 2. But he also did Hellboy, which I thought were decent movies. Not like the greatest ever, but they were fun popcorn movies to watch.
Yeah.
And he also collaborated with the one and only Peter Jackson to make the Hobbit movies. I think he worked on the story with him, which is funny because it's already written out. So, like, what did he really have to do? He probably just told Peter Jackson, like, yeah, just fit everything in, and that happens. Because, like, there's a cartoon Hobbit movie based on the book that's about 80 minutes long, and it accomplishes everything that they did in 3 movies. So it's just a much more frenetic pace. You know, the movies let everything breathe a little bit more. So, but it just 9 hours of The Hobbit, you really don't need it. It's one book.
Yeah,
it's a little bit of overkill, but we'll talk more about Peter Jackson in a couple weeks. But yeah, Guillermo del Toro, also Pappy McPoyle from It's Always Sunny. There's a lot of Always Sunny crossover from this movie, and it's pretty funny, like the characters that they play, because the mathematician guy pretty much plays a scientist in his appearance in the show.
Oh yeah.
And Guillermo del Toro plays Pappy McPoyle, which the McPoyle family is a group of like incestual weirdos. Like everyone's super weird, and the blonde guy who plays the young man in black from Billy from Westworld is like one of the main McPoyle characters. They have like weird incestual relations with their sister. It's just the weirdest group of people ever. And Guillermo del Toro as Pappy McPoyle is probably the best casting choice ever.
I forgot that he was in It's Always Sunny. I guess that makes the casting of Charlie Day makes a little bit more less random to me now, I guess.
Yeah, he's at the wedding in the first episode. He's in 2 episodes. He's in the wedding episode with his daughter's getting married. No, it's Maureen Ponderosa's getting married to one of the McPoyles. And he's in the trial where he keeps a bird under his hat that gnaws people's eyes.
Yes, I remember. All right, that one I more kind of remember.
So yeah, that's the background for Pacific Rim. a little scattered this week.
He's Guillermo del Toro has been admittedly like a huge Ultraman, Godzilla fan. Like, he's what's the movie that he just won all the awards from like several years ago? The Shape of Water or something like that. I mean, like, I haven't seen it, but like the movie that's pretty much like, the main creature is like his basically take on like the Gill Man from like Creature from the Black Lagoon and stuff like that. He is a very open and passionate kaiju and B-movie monster lover, and he co-wrote I forget the guy's name, but he co-wrote this movie with the other co-writer for this movie. I think the deal is basically like if it gets made, he gets to
his name is Steven. I forget it. Steven DeWitt. No, that's not right. Let me look this up because I know who it is. Give me one. I'm on my tab. There we go.
But yeah, so like while you look it up, he the cast in this movie, like, as we'll talk more about it. Like, you get Charlie Day from It's Always Sunny, and Idris Elba, who's pretty awesome. They have a lot of like English actors in this movie.
Where is it? Well, not Travis Beecham. That's who it was.
Well, there you go. Co-wrote it together.
I thought it was someone else.
So yeah, it came out in 2013, and I'm gonna guess we probably saw it together at the time.
We definitely
when it
did.
Came out.
Yeah, because this was like the first like giant monster robot type of thing happening in a very long time.
Yeah.
This was before Legendary's Godzilla. We were already stoked for Godzilla that was coming out the year following, but this movie kind of snuck up and was just like, hey, let's sort of test the market and see how Godzilla is going to perform.
Yeah, and it did well enough. I think
got a sequel
from what I was reading to kind of refresh myself is that it did well in America. It didn't do as well as was expected, but a lot of these movies do, made all their money China and other territories and whatnot. But it was when it was coming out, it was kind of like the I don't remember if it was being called the Monsterverse yet or anything like that.
No, it wasn't. They hadn't even scratched service on that yet.
But there had been some talks, and I don't know how seriously it was ever developed or considered, but there was an idea or at least some discussion at some point in time where Legendary was saying, we may eventually tie Pacific Rim and Godzilla together.
I don't see how that's possible though, given the stories.
It would have to be some sort of hokey whatever, dimension warp thing, through the breach or something. It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah.
It doesn't make sense to do it. So.
I'm cool with them being separate too. You could have two different series going on. That's fine by me.
Yeah. But I kind of remember when it came out in 2013, I was I liked it, but I remember kind of being just kind of it was oh, yeah, it's all right.
Yeah.
But then I was when I rewatched it, I was oh man, I was this is way better than I remember it being.
I've always sort of stayed the same with it. It's never whenever it's on, I'll watch it. I've never really sought it out too much, so to speak, because I've seen it probably 10 times at least now. I've always sort of had the same feelings about it. It's a well-made movie with a cohesive storyline that you don't need to be a genius to figure out. You can just sit there, shut your brain off for a little bit, and enjoy the movie.
Yeah, I think when it first came out, I liked all the monster action. To be honest, I'm not the biggest fan of I just know this is the way all movies going to go down. There's not anything I can do about it. But I'm not the biggest fan of just entire CGI fights. But that's what these movies are, right? That's what the MonsterVerse is. That's what every new Godzilla movie that comes from either Japan or America is going to be. I'm just going to have to kind of get used to it. But at the time, I was yeah, all right, this is kind of big CGI fights. They were cool though. The monsters were cool. I always appreciated that. I don't know. I feel like Western giant monsters always kind of take on some sort of I don't know, insect or tentacle design and but these were in Pacific Rim they're only kind of reptilian or ape or it's they're sharp when they have angles, right? Kind of like a Japanese monster does. They have a more classic
there was one
Japanese kaiju design.
There was one kaiju called Knifehead who looked exactly like a Toho monster. I forget their name, but I remember.
I was more thinking of he kind of looked like a combination. He almost kind of reminded me of Guron from the Gamera series.
That's who it was.
The one that has from the Gamera series was the big giant knife head, and then there's the one that they fight in Hong Kong. That when he's on all fours, almost kind of reminded me of Anguirus in a way. And then it's the one that takes flight with Gypsy Danger,
Is that Otachi?
And spreads the wings. Yeah, I'm not good at the monsters' names in this movie, but I was oh, now it kind of looks like Gauss. I was this is kind of cool.
I know a few. There's Otachi. Oh, I think that's that one because it's Otachi and Leatherback in that scene in Hong Kong. Leatherback's sort of the big ape-like one, and Otachi at first it's just all fours and they have tails that get blown off by venting coolant, and but then after that happens, they bust out their wings and they look more like Rodan.
Yeah, it definitely gave me that Rodin Gauss type vibe,
Yeah.
which I thought was cool. Like I was like, oh, if these were like, I don't know, just like more like I said, like a more like cliche, quote unquote, like Western style, like, they wouldn't, I feel like they'd just be constantly like obscured by something. Like they would have like insect like features and like, they wouldn't be like cool looking. They would just be, I don't know.
Scary
You know what I'm getting at. Yeah, exactly. And it's like, and I think that's, I think that shows like Guillermo del Toro like gets like what, Japanese monsters are like supposed to be like. And that's like what he is pouring into like those designs here.
Yeah.
But I remember, like when it first came out, like I remember going like, I was like, oh my god, it's like half these characters, like they're just kind of like, they're like so over the top, like tropey at times that I was like, of course the main character, like, Raleigh,
yeah.
yeah. I was like, of course, like, like he has like his brother dies like in this fight, and then it's like he's like off the grid working on this wall, and he has like this like cliche dialogue of the Idris Elba who recruits him in, and then like of course like the other star pilot is just like a dickhead to him like immediately, because like you need like that like random feud like going on like between these people. And
hey man, Maverick needs his Iceman.
Yeah, I was like, okay, and it's just
because his brother was Goose. This is just Top Gun.
Yeah, it's like, and even though it didn't bother me with Charlie Day, I was like, Charlie Day is legit just playing his character from It's Always Sunny, which is awesome. But if he was a scientist,
do you have half sleeve kaiju tattoos on your forearms there, Chris?
I don't. So I guess
I guess he's further along than you are.
I guess. My body's a temple. I have not desecrated it with any sort of ink.
My body is a roadmap of pain.
If my body is a temple, I fill it with shit all the time. But, it was just, I just remember like going like, okay, there's like some like really like kind of like hokey cliche things here. And I think maybe just like at the time in 2013, I think there were probably just a lot of movies out like then that I probably had just seen that I was like, okay, like we kind of get these like interchangeable characters like in all these different movies, but now seeing it like years later, having all that kind of removed, I was like, oh, this doesn't like bother me. And actually it's like, I kind of like how ridiculously over the top some of these, characters are. Like Idris Elba's like major character was like, it was Major Stryker. Of course his name was like something like fucking Stryker or something like that. But I was like, yeah, he's like awesome. Like doing these like random ass like
he's good at everything he does
speeches.
Though. Like he's always like the serious sort of like the moral compass of the movie. That's or whatever he's saying. He's always like the serious like no frills character, and he does that well.
He's really really good, and I've never seen Preacher, but it's like every time I see him in something, I go like, oh man, I was like, I should go watch Preacher, which was like his like BBC like detective TV show, or whatever it was. I guess that's supposed to be really really good, but yeah, he's awesome. He's probably my favorite character in the movie. Him and his random nosebleeds.
Well, that's sort of one of the things I know about this movie, and it sort of touches on what you're saying, like the sort of conflict going on between the characters, is that like when the kaiju sort of hate, they talk about in the exposition like all the countries who were everyone put up aside their differences and worked together, pooled their resources to make the Jaegers, because like they realized that they were going to need to work together to beat these things because they weren't going to stop coming. So that really does away with like humanity's conflict. So what do you do at that point? Well, you have to use story tropes to like create conflict. So they do the drift thing where you need two pilots because the neural load was too much for one pilot, and that's why Idris Elba has the nosebleeds, because he was one of the pilots who originally ran it by himself, and it like pretty much gave him like an incurable disease.
Well, like I just like how he said like he was like, oh, he's like, when we were building the Jaegers back then, the last thing we were thinking about was radiation shielding. I was like, what? Shouldn't that be like one of the first things you think about? You're building these giant ass robots that are like borderline like walking nuclear bombs, and you're just not thinking about radiation shielding? Haven't we been thinking about that? Like a dentist office thinks about radiation shielding when you get an X-ray. Like
Yeah, but they use Atari Jaguars for that.
That's a deep cut.
Yeah, it is. But yeah, there's so when you have a movie where there's no like real conflict between humans, you have to sort of manufacture it through story tropes, and I think it's forgivable. It's cliche, but it's forgivable in this movie, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's. I think in 2013 when I saw it, I probably tried to think of it as like being like some super serious movie, and then like when I like rewatched it for this, because I actually haven't watched this movie a lot since it first came out, and like when I rewatched it for this, I was like, no, this is like trying to be kind of like a campy monster movie, and it totally like succeeds, and like I was kind of looking at it like through the wrong lens in like 2013 when it first came out, but like
that happens.
I was watching, I was like, man, I was like, the fact that like the kaiju are like a civilization that's like coordinating this attack, and like they're not just like, again, like what would have been like a cliche thing in like in a lot of monster movies is that like you make them like some misunderstood creatures that like need to be, you know, studied and understood, or you're sympathetic for them, which like works in certain movies. And this one is just like, no, they're like an invading force, and like they are clearly evil. And
the kaiju are being like made by this alien species for the sole purpose of like terraforming the planet.
Right. And like, although like when Charlie Day's like describing it, he like basically uses like the speech from like Independence Day. When,
exactly.
When the president gets like, he's like they're like locusts. They just consume and move on. He like basically says almost the exact same thing to describe these kaiju. I think they get a name in the second one. They're like the precursors or something like that. But
I forget.
Yeah,
I haven't seen that movie in a while.
It's something,
sure
cornball like that. And then like the mechs are all cool. I mean, you know, granted, everyone outside of the Americans are basically like borderline racial stereotypes to the point where I was like, oh boy. I was like,
I will say like the Jaegers have this tendency to be, I don't want to say cliche, but like they're very similar, but also just different enough. You know, like there's the 3-arm guy, and then there's like, you know, the big bulky one, and then there's like Gypsy Danger, which is sort of just like the stereotypical like no frills sort of one, you know. I think the kaiju have much more creativity to them than the Jaegers do.
I don't know. I agree. Yeah, it seems like I said, like it kind of seemed like that outside of Raleigh and you know, Mako being in Gypsy Danger, it kind of felt like every other Jaeger was kind of, in their crew was kind of like leaning into some like racial stereotypes a little bit too heavily, and I was like, ooh boy, can we that should probably be dialed down a little bit. That seemed, you know, it was just like the Russian duo in particular, and I was like, okay, like. I feel like you just kind of ripped these characters out of like some sort of like Cold War era story or something and just plopped them in here. I don't know, like what's. I was like, I don't think this is like representative of real people.
There's probably a little bit of that going on. Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Yeah. That was the only thing that kind of took me back a little bit. I was like, maybe you should have. I don't know. Maybe dial that down a little bit, but
one of the main things about this movie too is they have something called the drift, where like they have to basically sync their minds together, and so they need to stay focused and not be thinking about like other things while they're in the Jaegers. So like Mako, when she gets in there with Raleigh for the first time, like they're just testing it out, and she thinks back to when she was like a little girl, and like one of the monsters was attacking Tokyo. Was that Karloff? One of the monsters is Karloff because it looked like Boris Karloff and Frankenstein. And that's my favorite monster of the movie was Karloff. But she like there's this really cool scene where she's running away from the monster who's like pacing through the city, and then she like runs into this alley and she's like hiding, and like it's like probably the best scene in the movie, because like they eventually kill it, and Stryker saves Mako, and that's sort of where their relationship begins. Was like her parents were killed by this monster, and now she's being raised by the pilot of a Jaeger who saved her.
Yeah. And, like I said, I always liked his yelling like hey, we have a clock here. It's like basically how many days since an incident has occurred.
Yeah.
He's like, reset the clock.
That's the big thing at the end, and everyone cheers. That I was thinking when I was watching this, I was like, just once I'd like to be in a movie where I say something and then everyone behind me just goes, yeah, and cheers and celebrates.
It's like when they come back from it's when they save Hong Kong and like basically everybody dies except for Gypsy Danger and the New Zealander father-son duo. Like they come back and it's like the whole like place is like crowding them and like cheering and applauding, and then Idris Elba comes in and goes, just a reminder, half of our pilots are dead.
Yeah.
So
Right.
So like
I don't know why they were cheering.
I know it wasn't exactly like the greatest day. It was like, she repelled these two monsters from Hong Kong, but it at a pretty high cost.
Oh, speaking of Hong Kong, though, we haven't talked about perhaps the best side character in the movie, which is
Ron Perlman.
Ron Perlman, who is a kaiju parts black market dealer. Who lives in like this bunker area in Tokyo, and there's a pregnant kaiju that gives birth to a little baby kaiju that eats Ron Perlman at one point. And then the post-credit scene, Ron Perlman digs himself out of the kaiju with a knife. He's like, where's my shoe?
I like how his name's Hannibal Chow, and
Yes.
he explains that it's based on his favorite literary character and then his favorite takeout place in New York. And I was like, that was a great explanation for a name like that.
I wonder where Hannibal is in New York. Yep.
But
Yep. Anyways.
when they're like, so getting back to like the drift compatibility thing, I won't lie, I had one moment going like, I was like, well, there's a lot of people who listen to this podcast know that you and I first met because we were a championship winning defense in under-8 soccer. So
you're saying we're going to operate a Jaeger together?
I'm going to say if we were able to operate a defensive, a championship winning under-8 soccer defense, I think that probably means we're probably very drift compatible. I would think.
All right, I'll try to keep my mind on the fight.
But also like when I was like, oh, they're going into like each other's brains or memories and stuff, and I was like, they had like that quick moment going like, boy, what would happen if like you had to like, if I had to like do that with like some like random person going like, yeah, you may want to like pay mindful of like what corners you're turning here when you're drifting through my memories here.
Yeah,
let's But it was like nothing really embarrassing.
Yeah,
but it was like nothing like really embarrassing. I was like, oh, it's just it's all their trauma. You just live their trauma. Nothing else really particularly very fun. Like, do you notice like when like Charlie Day and the other, the mathematician guy, when like they drift with the kaiju brain, which I feel like needs discussing.
Yeah, we haven't talked about that yet.
I don't know, like, I'm gonna guess it's probably, like, the mathematician. There's, like, a quick, like, little scene where it's, like, he's, like, a kid and he's just, like, curled up in the corner, like, head down, like, crying, and I was like, oh, boy. That was a good, like, little, like, grim way to, like, kind of, like, develop their characters.
I love how in this movie he's, like, this dorky scientist, and then in Game of Thrones he's, like, basically a murderer for hire.
Oh, who was he in Game of Thrones?
He was sent to the wall. He was, I forget his name, but he's the guy who led the rebellion on Jeor Mormont at Craster's Keep. And
oh, really?
Yes.
Huh. I didn't even put that together.
Yes. So he's like this badass, like, knife wielding like murderer for hire, basically, who basically takes over Craster's keep and turns it into like his own like brothel where he and like his fellow what do you call them, deserters, I guess, like just raped Craster's daughter wives.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was the same guy.
Yep.
Well, guess that shows you how good he is.
That's some rage right there.
Yeah. But like, I feel like we kind of jumped around to like all sorts of different points of the movie. But I guess like one of the things I liked too was that like they didn't like, I don't know, I just like that like they were just like, hey, like we're gonna like take like 5 minutes at the beginning and we're just gonna kind of set the world up for you, and like we're just not gonna like spend a lot of time like developing these Jaegers or anything like that. Like you're just gonna know they've already happening. Like we've been at war with these kaiju for years. Like, you know, it dives you right into like a good part of the story, not like some like long build up to it. I appreciated that.
I think this is something that happens when like exposition done well. You don't need to like spend too much time setting up the world if you do it correctly, and I think this movie really does a good job with that. Like it's almost like a montage of like, you know, 20-ish years worth of fighting these Jaegers, or fighting these kaiju with the Jaegers.
Yeah.
So I'll agree with you. It's a good. The pace is really good in this movie, and it's everything's set up so that like there's never a point where you're like, what the hell is going on here? You know?
Yeah. There's some things that perplexed me. Like I said to you, like in our chat the other night, I was like, you know, they have the sword in Gypsy Danger, and they wait so long to use it in that first fight, and it's like it made me start to wonder, like to just like, and it seemed like Raleigh didn't even know that it had a sword. Yeah. And like Mako's like, wait, we got one more thing, we got a sword. I'm like, what the shit was that 10 minutes ago? Why did you wait till like this Gauss thing brought you into space? It's before true. Like you whipped it out?
Because you never saw it in the first fight when Gypsy Danger is trying to rescue the boat and he fights Knifehead,
yeah,
and his brother gets killed. You never saw it in that fight, so maybe they added it in during the portion when he's working on the wall. And also a funny scene when he's working on the wall. Just a side note real quick, a sidebar. When the monster crashes through the Australian wall, some guy in the background is like, what are we even building this for? And I was like, yeah, exactly.
Also, yeah, when Gypsy Danger was using whenever they used the plasma cannon weapon, I was like, you know, Gypsy Danger looks a lot like Samus Aran from the Metroid franchise in this particular scene. But another thing that didn't make any sense to me before the sword got used was like when again like the New Zealand father-son duo whose names keep escaping me.
They're very forgettable.
Like when they get shut down by like the EMP blast, and like the father's like, all right, we gotta protect the city, like let's go outside and like do something really stupid to like distract these monsters. Like all they did was like they shot flares at it. I was like,
yes.
What was your plan?
Not a good plan right there. That was the one part that I was just like, and then I was like, oh, now these guys are dead. And then the monsters like get distracted by Gypsy Danger, and instead of just killing them real quick, they just run away. Like the same amount of effort to just like grab them and just chuck them away and kill them. Like they just run away and let you live.
Yeah. That did not make a lot of sense to me. That was like the one time that I was like, what? I was like, that was like so stupid that like couldn't like somebody while they were filming that go like, wait, like, because like they shoot the flares and there is like still like the moment where Gypsy Danger's not there, and I was like, okay, like what was the next thing you were going to do?
Also, they're like with Stryker like in the command area, like not set up at all, and then like 2 seconds later they're being flown in, and I'm like, might take a little longer to get that set up there.
yeah, that's kind of like where it hits like some of the pitfalls of like you know, like Hollywood blockbusters, like, you know, everything is at night in like the torrential downpour to make up to like kind of help with like some of the CGI and stuff like that. But it's like and the MonsterVerse is guilty of this too, but for some reason Pacific Rim didn't get the level of shit that Godzilla King of the Monsters got for this. But it's like, again,
because it came out first and it was still kind of fresh.
But I was gonna say, like they're standing in like the middle of the ocean without any sort of understanding of how
they appear underneath the ocean. They rise up and then they're standing on it. So it's like, what kind of position were they in? Were they just like lying flat down, just like on the ocean floor, just like, swimming? It's very hard to understand how this worked.
Yeah, that's I just, at least like I like to, in my head, I like to picture when Godzilla's doing it, he's just doing like kind of like a feverish like lower body doggy paddle or something like that.
Yeah, he's doing kegels.
Just stay like that. Yeah. And then I was like, okay, maybe with like the Jaegers, like maybe they have like these like weird underwater rockets or propellers or something that are keeping there. But like when that one gets taken out, the EMP blast, I was like, okay, shouldn't it just sink now? Like, or is it just like 30 feet deep? I don't know. Also, the scale seemed like it was off from like time to time. Like there was like sometimes I feel like monsters got really big. Then I feel like they got like a little small when the scene called for it, but
when they're fighting in the shipyard, I noticed that it seemed like they were a little smaller, going underneath like overpass bridges and stuff. And then the next scene, they're like as tall as buildings,
Yeah, so that's just like nitpicky. Stuff.
I was going to say forgivable mistakes. There are much worse examples of scaling issues, like in the Millennium series of Godzilla.
Yeah, again, just little nitpicks, but yeah, I don't know. Very good overall. They blew up the breach at the end, but didn't blow it up good enough because you got a shitty sequel. So
well, they did, but something happens where someone from the first movie reopens the rift.
I've only seen little bits of the second one. I've never watched it the full way through. So.
I won't spoil it for you or anything like that, but I'm pretty sure you already know what happens in it and everything.
I do. So I don't know if you're doing it for the sake of the people listening.
I'm doing it more for the sake of the people listening.
Okay.
Like, the second movie is not nearly as good as the first movie.
Yeah, the second one, I think, like where
it has cool fight scenes, but that's about where the fun ends. Unfortunately,
it feels like more like because the second one's not directed by Guillermo del Toro. Like, he dropped out of it at some point because of like how long it was taking to get done. I think he has like a producer credit, but I don't think that really means much of anything. But yeah, the second one's like more like a feels like a low budget like Transformers movie at times.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a secret that Jaegers are fighting other Jaegers at some point in that. It's like those scenes. I was like, okay, this is like
there are cool
Transformers-esque.
Yeah, there are cool ideas going on and everything. I won't say it's completely lost there, but yeah, this movie blows that one out of the water.
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely. And I guess there's an anime series coming in spring.
Yes, on Netflix.
Yeah, and I guess that is supposed to pick up where this. Like, I think that's supposed to be in continuity with the first two movies.
Okay, that's fine.
So I wasn't sure if it was going to be like a reboot or if it was. But I was like reading that it's. I guess like it's a continuation of the first two movies. So I guess I'll have to watch the second one fully to be caught up. I guess.
Yeah, you should watch it. I'm not saying you shouldn't. It's completely skippable. You should watch it once.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like I said, I started to watch it once, and I was like, I don't know about this. And moved on.
At one point, I'm not spoiling anything for you here, but at one point, Finn gives an Oscar. He trades an Oscar trophy for a box of cereal. It's an actual scene.
Okay, cool.
That was.
Oh yeah, it's John Boyega's like
John
first.
Boyega,
yeah, his first major film, I think.
No, this is after the Force Awakens.
Oh, was it?
Yeah, Force Awakens came out 2015.
It's a good question.
2016. I think 2015, because then Rogue One was 2016. Then the Last Jedi was 17.
Oh my god, Pacific Horizon came out in 2018? Oh my god,
yes.
It looks like it came out in like 2006. But Wow, I didn't realize. Oh well. Well, I'm glad his career recovered. But although, from what I remember he was just like in the Star Wars movies. Like he was one of the more enjoyable parts of what I saw from that movie. So
Yeah.
Um,
But anyways,
Well.
if this movie were a wrestler, who would it be?
Because I watched Nick Aldis versus Michael Bennett earlier today from the most recent NWA Shockwave episode, it's a Michael Bennett. That's what that is.
All right, that's fair. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Evil Uno. Like he's kind of goofy, but he's still kind of serious too.
Interesting. I was going with Michael Bennett just because it's kind of like an indie guy that
It's enjoyable.
that brushed with the bright lights of the big stage for a little bit, and then got a little lost after that. And but it was coming back.
He had a
It's time to come back.
He had a great theme song though.
He sure did.
Oh, it's so good.
So if we were to rank this in our 5-star ranking system, 5-star being main eventers, 4-star being upper mid-carders, 3 stars being mid-carders, 2 stars being lower mid-carder, and 1 star being a jobber, curtain jerker type. And for the record, there's nothing wrong with being a mid-carder. A mid-carder is your completely good hand, good enjoyable worker, movie, etc. Nothing wrong with being 3 stars. Whatever. I'll just go. Actually, I don't know if I'll go first because I'm kind of torn as to where to put this.
Okay, I'll go first. I have no problem. I'm gonna say a 4. It's not the. It's I won't put it higher than that because 5s are sort of reserved for like top tier movies, and this is just not a top tier movie. However, it is a good movie. Very enjoyable. Very watchable. It's not overly complicated, so if you don't get it, like that's fine. You can still just watch the movie because it's a spectacle too. The pace is great. All the characters are palatable, some more than others, like Ron Perlman and Mako and Idris Elba are obviously the highlights of the movie. I like It's Always Sunny, so Charlie Day being in there sort of just like a perk for me. But like he really didn't do anything that was like mind blowing or hilarious. Like,
besides getting his mind blown by the drifting with the kaiju brain. Oh,
that's shh. But yeah, I'm gonna say it's a solid 4 for me.
Yeah, I think I am gonna go with the 3 on this one because like kind of same reasons. Perfectly, very good, enjoyable movie. I think the beginnings of a really great world universe is being built there, and then subsequent entries in the series didn't really do a good job of fleshing it out more, and I don't think it was fleshed out enough in this. But if it was like, I feel like if this is something that had like Guillermo del Toro doing like 2 to 3 of these movies as like the director, like I think we could have got like a really cool sci-fi franchise on this. But no, it's fun, it's enjoyable. Same thing, Mako, Idris Elba, and Ron Perlman and Charlie Day are definitely the highlights of the cast in this one. And the fights are cool and the monsters are cool.
And the main character Raleigh is not like like he's pretty milquetoast and inoffensive. He's just like your typical sort of almost stoic, like main character guy. He's so bland that like anyone could like see themselves as him. He doesn't have any like personality quirks that would turn anybody off. He's sort of just like right down the middle. Like, anyone could put themselves in his position.
Yeah, he's like he's the precursor to Brody in the 2014 Godzilla movie.
I think Brody's taken to a whole new level on.
They are both cut from the same generic T-shirt cotton. So it's just it's just they're just plain T-shirts. That's what they are. You can buy them in a bag and get 5 of them. It's just they're just plain, like they're kind of like like in video games, you just kind of have like the muted player character that like just that you kind of experience the game through, and everyone else like talks to you.
Yeah.
That's kind of what him and Brody are. So this is definitely like, I would say Idris Elba, totally the highlight of this movie because he's just so fucking awesome. So,
All right.
and I like to think how much better Godzilla 2014 would have been if he was in that one with Bryan Cranston.
Brody has two dads. They both play Brody's dad.
That'd be pretty good. I'd be on board with that.
Idris Elba is his stepdad, and then his real dad's like Bryan Cranston. That hell of a lottery win there for that one. Uh-oh.
Yeah. I probably would just take Brody out and replace him with Idris Elba, but but hey, that's another podcast for another time. For that.
I'm looking forward to that one. That'll be a good discussion.
Yeah. God, you have Bryan Cranston being so good in that movie. What do? Kill him a third of the way in. Great.
Oh boy. All right. Before I ask you a question, I got a hot topic for you. Thanks for letting me get my stuff in. Try not to swear. So we got Hot Topic is releasing a collectible statue of King of the Monsters Godzilla. And it's made of resin. And I don't know, Tony.
Yeah.
First of all, let's get this out of the way first. It does not look like King of the Monsters Godzilla or Legendary Godzilla at all.
So I think they're just saying Godzilla, King of the Monsters. I don't think it's supposed to be representative of the Legendary line. I didn't take it that way.
Got it. But I feel like this is an instance, and I mentioned this to you the other day when we found out about this. This is maybe the sculptor and the marketing team not necessarily being on the same page.
Yes. Yeah, I think it is. I think in 2020, if you are like a very American store like Hot Topic, like I think that King of the Monsters branding will probably throw a lot of people off.
Yes. Yeah.
So,
like if they let this out in 2013, like before the Godzilla movie, the first one, Legendary movie came out, it would be fine. Like, you call it the King of the Monsters, no one would bat an eye. But since we just got the movie King of the Monsters last year, it's just kind of like, well, it's kind of confusing. No, my first impressions looking at this, the body is pretty bulky, and the legs are very skinny. Or skinny for Godzilla, anyway. It just looks a little bit like... If you look at Shin Godzilla, like, the legs are enormous, and the body's kind of skinny. It's flipped here. The body's kind of bulky and the legs are like normal Godzilla sized almost.
Yeah, I was saying to you in our group chat the other night. It's like as if you were like making a character like in a video game, and it's like you had like the for the body and the arms, you had that like the default size, and then you made the head and the legs like -1. So like they're just slightly undersized.
Yeah.
I was like, this is like your mock-up photo, and it still looks like shit.
I don't know if it's necessarily the head is small or anything like that. The head seems okay, and to be honest with you, like the head's probably like the most detailed part of this too. It's not. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying it's not really like any specific. Like NECA just released like specific Godzillas, and it's like this is the '64 Godzilla, this is the '85 Godzilla. You knew what you were getting. This one doesn't really have like a specific. It's not like designed after a specific Godzilla. It just looks like someone made a Godzilla statue and was like, all right, here we go.
It looks like a hodgepodge of like the different '90s style Godzilla suits. Like it's not committed to like any one of the movies.
It looks like the original Godzilla's like scales and fins and stuff, but like the Heisei series head. and then
Yeah.
the body's just kind of weird. Maybe like the Hanna-Barbera Godzilla body.
Well, that paint job on the eyes though, and that mock-up is like you get these like red eyes, and it looks like the pupils like aren't even like lined up too well. Like in like the mock-up photos they put up, and it's just it looks like it looks like I have some bootleg like mini figures like that are like 3 inches tall that I got off of like AliExpress, and like it looks like one of those except it's like twice the size, and comparing it to what we're getting currently from Playmates, it's not a $9 figure, it's an almost $30
right
figure,
and this would be in line with something
awful.
that Playmates would do. Like that's like when you said like a topic giving Playmates a run for their money. Like what I thought, I was like, oh yeah, because it even has like that like weird smoothed outlook that like the Playmates figures have.
Yeah.
Almost like the sculptor like made details on the body and then added a little bit more clay to like patch up spots, and then never added the details to it. So like the chest in particular looks like it's just like a blob added like on top of it. I don't know if you can see that, but like I think the head is okay. Like the pose is fine. It's a good pose because the tail is curled around, so it's not going to take up too much space. But the price tag of $27, it's just a little steep for something that really doesn't have like any sort of like real, like it's not like any specific Godzilla. It's just like Godzilla. This is a statue of Godzilla, and like I'm not going to say it's even a bad statue or anything like that. It's better than anything I could sculpt, I'll tell you that much. I'm just saying that like for that price point you would want something more specific. Like a Godzilla fan would be like, after the NECA series, would be expecting that at this point, you know what I mean? So like
I was saying like I have to get this shit in on our pod, as is like say to you in our group chat the other day. So I want there to be like a variant that comes with a variety of belly button barbell piercings in Bob Marley posters, and a lava lamp, and maybe like a Slipknot T-shirt or something. Now, granted, I am thinking of all these cliche Hot Topic things that like I feel like when we were mall rats in high school in like 1999 to 2000, 2001, I feel like every time I ever was in a Hot Topic was because a friend of mine either needed a new barbell for a piercing, or needed a Bob Marley poster, or they wanted to buy like a Slipknot T-shirt or something like that. So I want a variant of this figure that comes with my high school Hot Topic shopping or going experience, because I did not purchase any of those 3 things I just named ever.
Yeah. Like honestly, like if they rework the statue a little bit to make the body a little bit less bulky and make the legs more like rounded, I guess, this would, and they just sold it as like, hey, say Godzilla, or even if they tried to pass it off as a Showa Godzilla. Honestly, it's not that bad. Like the price point is just a little bit too high for something like this, in my opinion. I can't justify spending that much money on it.
I think it's goofy and hideous, and I just go, there is a... God, I can't believe I'm going to like give Playmates props, but there is a like $9 Godzilla Final Wars figure out there that Playmates has put out that you can easily find in a Walmart that looks light years ahead of this, and it's $9 ahead of that Hot Topic monstrosity, and it doesn't even come with a Bob Marley poster.
Yeah, so. Like I don't want to rag on it too much, because like some artist somewhere like worked pretty hard to like make this, and I would feel like remiss if like I just don't want that. Like I would probably like have trouble going to sleep if I said something nasty about them, so I don't want to do that. I want to like be constructive and just be like, the head's good, the arms are fine, the tail is in a good position for it being a resin statue. If they just reworked a few things and maybe dropped it down like $5, like hey, like maybe we'll talk turkey then. But as it is right now, like I can't in good conscience really like recommend this, so to speak. Thank you, Hot Topic, for like trying to get in the game and like fill that collectibles void that like unfortunately Neck is left, but this needs more work before it's released. And it looks like it's being released as is, so it's not going to happen. But if they ever make any in the future, if there's like a reissue of this, like those are things that I would expect, like the body to be like reworked to be more, what we saw in the movies.
Well, hey, you took the positive high road on that. The holiday spirit is filling you.
No, like I, as someone who does like music and art and shit, like, I would feel really bad if someone said something I did was like the worst thing ever. And like, I've seen people say that, and I don't think this is the worst thing ever, but like, I would just feel awful if I over critique this to the point where it wasn't constructive anymore.
Yeah, no, sure. It's not the worst thing ever. That's the outgoing president. But that's so it's
All right, you got me with that.
It's in the terms of figures though, maybe the sculpt seems fine. It seems like I'm going to guess it's going to be the victim of the machine of mass production, and it looks like some, cutting a little corners somewhere there. I like to see, they could tighten it up a little bit,
Yeah.
I'd be happy to have, if you put a little bit more work in and it sells a little bit more, that means we're going to get more stuff. And that's the way I look at it,
Yeah.
I
will say
I
this.
don't like schlock rush to market.
This looks better than the first Playmate stuff that was rushed to market,
Yes.
So it's got that going for it.
Yes. And you know what? I'll probably end up buying it someday because just like I said I was never going to buy those Playmates figures when I saw them.
And I knew in the back of my mind, I was like, oh, yes, you are.
and I sent you a picture the other day of I put all of them on a single shelf and I said, oh, it's like the cursed shelf. And I think I'm only missing the first Playmates Kong Skull, the one that you have, the short one.
Yep.
That one I looked at, I was like, you clearly just took this from, this is not Kong. This is just you took a generic gorilla and just slapped the Kong logo on it. And the
second one you did was a lot better, though. The one that's
yes. They don't have the newer giant-sized Kong. I don't have that one.
Yeah.
But I see it all the time. I'll eventually get it, but that one, it's not even painted. It's just I'm just the sculpt is fine, but the first giant size one that they put out is awesome. It's cheap hollow plastic, but it's a really cool figure. But the new one, I'm oh my god, it's just it looks like they just spray painted it and said off you go.
Yeah.
But I'll eventually break down and get it because as of right now, it's the only one I don't have, and I keep seeing it, and I haven't bought it yet. But you know what? Maybe I'll fix that this week. We'll see.
Yeah,
we'll see.
I see it whenever I go to stores, and I always pass it. I'm not spending $20 on something like that. A, I have no room for it anymore. It'd be I just don't want it.
Well, when it comes to the space issue, I always say buy it first, find space later.
Yeah.
So that's that won't lead to any problems in life. but
I always need to think. I need to envision it in my head before I can justify buying it. Which I broke that rule on the abundance of NECA figures that I bought, which kind of worked itself out all right because I made room for them. But
yeah. But well, I guess maybe that's a good way to segue to talk about buying stuff or stuff that has been bought.
Yeah, I know I didn't this week because I just haven't been able to find a skull crawler, and that's pretty much the only Playmates figure that I would consider buying at this point because I have the other ones, and the ones I don't have are the big ones. So
oh, you know what? whatever. I was gonna say, I can tell you this offline, but whatever. It's the back end of a podcast, so it's all a little bit loosey goosey here. I saw you sent a message the other day saying that you were looking for the Playmate Skullcrawler.
Yeah.
The Walmart that is closest to us. I saw this before. I saw your message. They are loaded with Skullcrawlers.
The NR one?
Yes, the NR one is loaded with Skullcrawlers.
I'm going to make a voyage tomorrow.
There you go. Like I said, last time I was there, it was like loaded with them.
All right, cool.
And no AEW figures. But anyway.
Yeah, I've never seen one there.
My purchases are, well, I made a good amount of purchases, but they're all sitting in the mail currently.
Yeah.
But I did get I gotta get the name right. It's made by Funko. It's the Godzilla Tokyo Clash board game, which they sell at a Target. I don't know if it's Target exclusive or not, but like I kept seeing it. It's like $25, and I kept like passing it, and I was like, I don't really give a shit about this, but it has like 4 minifigures. It's got Godzilla, King Ghidorah, Mothra, and Megalon. Like they're all like one solid color, but like the minifigures are actually like really well done. Mm-hmm. And it actually comes like a bunch of like little small like building pieces. And part of me was like, well, if I ever need more accessories for the OIWF, I mean, that's how I can justify this. But I also looked at it as like, those 4 figures are really, really good and detailed. And I was like, so if you think of it as like $4 for like these like really good minifigures, especially a really good Megalon, which I feel like you're not going to get a lot of, all of a sudden it didn't seem like that much anymore. But it's got a lot of cool artwork on the cards too. I haven't played it, and I don't know when or if I'll ever be playing it. But all I know is like some of the cards are like different moves for like the different monsters and stuff, and there's like one really hysterical one that's called a piercing drill, and it's like a move from Megalon, and he's just impaled and killed Jet Jaguar with his drill, and he's just like holding him on his hand upwards. And I was like, that's like the thing that's like funny to me is that like Jet Jaguar appears only in the artwork for like Megalon and Ghidorah, and it's like he's like the punching bag for Megalon and Ghidorah's cards. And I think on the Godzilla ones, I think Gigan is like the one who's getting like tossed like by Godzilla in a handful of Godzilla's action cards. But no, the one of like Megalon like impaling and killing Jet Jaguar is like just holding his body up impaled. It was like hysterical to me. I was like, well, that's awesome. But I don't know. Maybe like sometimes I go New Year's, like when my wife and I are trying to pass the time at midnight, we'll play a board game or something. Maybe I can convince her to play that, but probably not.
Oh, well.
We did play Godzilla Jenga the other night. Which I mentioned that I got like months ago, but like we just never played it, and it's like an extreme edition. And I know that's like a new thing with Jenga. I didn't really know what extreme meant other than like, like, so what you do is the Godzilla one, it's like, you get this cool cardboard cutout of like 54 Godzilla, and like he moves up this like ladder. Like, so you roll dice before like you pull out a piece of or one of the blocks, and basically it's like a multiplier. It's like either like you just pull 1 block, or it's like you get this multiplier, it's like you gotta pull 2 blocks, or there's one that like moves Godzilla further up the ladder. And as he goes further up, like, you at a minimum, like, start having to pull 2 blocks a turn or 3 blocks a turn. It basically, like, speeds the game up, like, really fast.
Yeah.
But the blocks are also, like, they have, like, kind of like a lacquer on them that makes them, like, kind of slippery. So, it's like, you can play, like, a game of Jenga in about 5 minutes because, like, they're just gonna, it's, like, sliding all over the place and stuff. I don't know. It was fun. It was cool.
Yeah, that seems like a good idea, just to make them easier to pull out and everything if they.
Yeah, but then also, but on the flip side, stacking them is harder because they're going to slide around now a lot more than they would normally. So there you go. Godzilla Jenga was fun.
Yeah, I've been slacking on the Godzilla merch for the past like couple months. Really haven't got anything since that NECA Kong. That was the last thing I got, and now I'm just kind of like, kind of miss it. Kind of getting the itch,
Well, eBay is your friend.
Yeah, I do look at eBay from time to time, and there are a couple things I want, like the 54 NECA, and like not like desperately because like I'm not paying what eBay's asking for it, like. But like I also looked at some of the Playmates, like the Space Godzilla thing, and it's kind of like a little too much. A little, give me a little bit of a deal here.
I feel like Trendmasters figures have started to go up recently, and I know this is not true at all, but I want to pretend it's our doing.
It's 100% our doing.
So,
it's 100% our doing.
People see the dastardly acts of Trendmasters Anguirus Guy getting a Biolante, and they go, "Well, I need to have those vile creatures in my home." And then all of a sudden, they're shooting right up. But I really want the kind of hard to find Trendmasters Gamera line. I only have like one figure so far, and I wouldn't mind if they were like loose. But I feel like they're starting to creep onto like eBay a little bit more, but like. The price is a little bit too high for like what I want to pay for something that's kind of like a novelty, but it is what it is.
I guess the one thing I can say, I did buy Peter Jackson's Kong on DVD, but at the place I was at also had a Blu-ray section, and I saw an HD DVD of Peter Jackson's King Kong there. And I was just like, oh my god, I have no idea if this is worth anything or if it's just like a complete piece of shit. And I was like, HD DVD, like, it's probably only value is the fact that it's an HD DVD and that like it's probably rare, and like I have no way to play it because I don't have an HD DVD player. I don't think my Xbox One has that functionality built into it. So like to even watch this thing, I would need to like go out and buy an HD DVD player, which I'm absolutely not doing. So it's just kind of like this, like it's labeled as orange DVD. It's not labeled as an HD DVD. Okay. It's just, like they probably thought it was like the same media as a DVD, but it's not. It was HD DVDs for people who don't know were originally like going against Blu-ray, and like because Blu-ray players were built into PlayStation 3s, whereas for Xbox 360s you had to buy like an add-on to play it. It was like a $50 add-on to play these HD DVDs. That is the entire reason why it failed.
Yeah,
because Sony owned the Blu-ray, so they just built the functionality into their system at no cost to you, whereas you had to like Xbox 360 was like the king of like, we're not putting anything in this. Like, if you want this to be on the internet, you're getting a fucking Ethernet cable. Because and if you want to play on Wi-Fi, you're gonna have to buy this dongle, the special dongle for it for $50. It's just like no. And then the HD DVD player on top of it was like another like $50 to $100. It's just like no, absolutely not. And you killed an entire media that could have been something, because it arguably had the better chance because it had the more recognizable name, but because they got greedy, they killed it.
Listen, if some people made a couple of different decisions, we could have been sitting here watching Pacific Rim on our 3D TVs and HD DVDs. Well, I'd rather just buy like a Laserdisc and hope that like I end up like a Laserdisc player randomly someday than buy an HD DVD.
I feel like a Laserdisc would be good to own just because the box art would be like so big, It's essentially the size of a vinyl record, and like I have like those with like cool box with cool like cover arts on it and stuff. Like Judas Priest ram it down, just a giant metal fist pounding into a planet.
Yeah. Little piece of trivia. All the 90s bootlegs that I got when those movies first came out were all taken from Laserdisc transfers, and it's like they were like such good quality bootlegs that I had back in the day. I felt like they had really went out the bootleg game there. But I guess, why were you purchasing Peter Jackson's King Kong?
Oh, we get that coming up for Kong Christmas, so I wanted to make sure I had it ready to go and in the cheapest amount possible. So I bought a DVD for $2 at a used bookstore.
Yeah. So, for reference, if you have hung around this long to this episode and many other past episodes, we have been talking about doing this movie for a long time, and I hate this fucking movie. I hate it with a passion. I've hated it ever since. I hated it when I first saw it in movies. In the theaters, I can't even talk. That's how much I hate it. It shuts down all my motor functions. And I'm not.
I remember walking out of the theater with you, and me being like completely disgusted by it, and you were even more so. And I was just like, oh, all right, so I'm not alone here. But you were like, you were so mad at it, and I was just like, well, I didn't hate it that much. There was some merit to it, but like,
we'll discuss more in 2 weeks.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to actually defending this movie now.
I am like debating. Well, no, I mean, like when I do watch it, like, you know, it's going to start off as a 12-pack of claws. It's going to be like an empty box of claws and probably like 3 other beer cans on top of it to get through that you know. I'm gonna just 8.5 hour movie.
I'm just gonna tell you right now that we need drinking game rules for this. That's the only way we can get through it. So I saw a few online, and if we can add any more to it, then cool. But here are the 3 that I want to do for this, and I want to stick to it and be strict. 1, you drink every time Carl Denham lies.
Okay.
2, you drink anytime Anne screams.
Okay.
3, you drink anytime you think, fuck, this is taking forever.
Well, I mean, that's like we can make that a waterfall rule if we really want to crush it. Yeah, you can just add a rule like anytime you think Chris is pissed off, just take a drink.
But yeah,
you know, I almost wonder, like, yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I just go like I gotta set aside 10 hours of my life to watch that fucking movie because of how fucking long it is, and I'm like, do we do like a watch along or something like that just so I can like rage about the whole fucking thing to an audience? But
I'm down for a watch along, but I'll just be honest with you. My intention of watching this movie was to split it in half because I don't know if I can sit there and watch a movie like this for 3+ hours.
Oh no, I will do the whole thing in one sitting. Well, you know, I'll probably have to pause it to go to the bathroom and maybe make lunch because it goes on for 10 hours, but
I can watch like 2 Towers in one sitting, no problem. I could watch Fellowship in one sitting, no problem. Return of the King, it's my least favorite of the 3 Lord of the Rings movies, but like I could still sit through that. This, I don't know if I can make it through in one sitting.
Oh, well, no, I will confront my nemesis head on.
You're a strong man, Chris.
I should have like a separate like tablet or something going muted off to the side that's just replaying the original 1933 King Kong and like see how many full times like the original one plays before the Peter Jackson one ends.
Not a bad idea.
Like probably would be 2.25, something like that, probably.
Well, the original is an hour 20.
Yeah, give or take. You know, so
I think you're spot on.
Yeah. Yep. Yep. And one's a classic.
So, yeah, look forward to next week's episode. It's
gonna be a really merry fucking Christmas for everybody.
It's the one I'm looking forward to the most. And after this, I'm just kind of like, we might have shot our load, you know? This might be it. We might have jumped the shark.
We'll have a good palate cleanser after that.
I'm just joking. Yeah, we'll need a good one. But that'll do it for this week's installment of this podcast. You know, I got nothing else to say, but maybe you have something you'd like to say.
No. I'm all emotionally worked up over this fucking movie, so I'm just getting the fuck out of here. That's what I'm doing.
All right. Well, we'll see you next time. And welcome to the podcast from Moto Island. I am Smooth Quiz. I'm going to do that again.
Quiz?
Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, take a shot.
Take a shot.